Hello, this is Tom Laurie talking about our 5-month trip across to Europe in a small sailboat. Here's the route from Lake Erie to the Gulf of Finland, and this is the first leg from Lake Erie down the Hudson River through the Erie Canal. And here are the three Cliftonites leaving from Willard's house. And we set off in Port Clinton with good intentions, but discovered a big leak and had to return. It turned out the stuffing, the stern tube was surrounded by a lot of cushy fiberglass. We repaired it, but we had to take the boat out of the water. We also took the engine out of the boat, and a week later we were underway again. So here we are in the beginning of Lake Erie with the mast taken down. And in the middle of Lake Oneida, we got a big wake from a boat, and the mast fell off its cradle, but thank God we got it put back on, went down the Hudson River, around Manhattan, up the East River, and of course we were always repairing things along the way. But that was nothing compared to the fantastic meals we had every day from Willard. Just incredible cook. Made things so much better. Here we are in Plymouth, on our way to Boston at a mooring, and here I am trying out our dinghy with the emergency cover, so it's our lifeboat. We were moored right next to the U.S. Constitution for a few days, and here I am with Willard's sister Jane just before we set out. But as soon as we got into the Gulf of Maine, we ran into contrary winds, so we went backwards, finally made it through the Gulf of Maine. You can see 30 knots, gusting to 40, but when weather was calm, we had wonderful meals in the evening from Willard. Off Halifax, we also ran into contrary winds, and we just had to hold our own, try to get through 1,000 poundings, 30 knot seas, 30 knot winds. Here we are in Newfoundland, rafted out, 3 people. We did some repairs. I put a net bag on the bilge pump. I went down with the emergency suit and checked the self-steering. Our friend Jim Winters really did a great job helping us. And we set off, and of course we ran into headwinds and contrary winds and no winds at all. And you can see by the points how bad it was on our 37-day crossing to Kristiansand, Norway. We had many setbacks. It took way too much longer. But occasionally we have nice weather, and Willard cook a good meal. Here we are trying to get around Scotland. Once again, terrible contrary winds, just no wind or bad wind, and finally I was drawing up graphs of what was possibly going on, but this was what really was going on, this historical chart from that day. But once again, we always had great food whenever possible. It was just made us help everything. And the refrigerator died, but it was 40 years old, and this is what got us through everything. Coffee, great coffee, and a stainless steel French press. Here's the whisker pole hiking out the Yankee with the rat boards, and Willard and I worked on our sextants, reading sightings, and I ate a little seaweed, but it had too much arsenic in it, so you couldn't take too much of it. And this is our go-to navigational device. The Garmin InReach did a fantastic job. And of course, you always had to oil everything because the salt water would get in everything. So, and here I am working on my sight reductions from the sextant readings. And this is the pro forma, a little sheet that you do the tabulations on. And Chuck would occasionally make some hors d'oeuvres, deviled ham, and he fried up some Spam. He did as best he could. It was nothing compared to Willard's fantastic. This is the saddest part, the heated up soup, and then I raised 2 big batches of dough and fried it, and it was fantastic. Really, it was like candy. Really helped a lot. And there we are crossing the North Sea, and finally got around Scotland on our way to Kristiansand. And this is the next leg, Kristiansand to Helsingør, and then Helsingør to Kotka. Here we are in Kristiansand with we finally saw the growth on the hull from the 37-day crossing. And we set off again in good intentions, but the wheel locked up, so we had to go back and fix it. I had to oil the stainless steel and in the aluminum bushing, but that's all sorted out. Then we set it off for Helsingør, but you can see all the ships are stacked in there. This is Helsingør, the castle where Hamlet was staged. And here we left there, went past Copenhagen, went through the canal, but we ran into contrary winds, so we laid up there for a day. This is a ship coming through the canal. And then we also had a lot of chafing. This is the self-steering chafing. Everything has to be addressed here very carefully. And then off we left the canal. We ran into headwinds. We put into this cute little marina, just fantastic, just in the nick of time. It was only 4 nautical miles away, and it was home of the Swedish Stonehenge. Just the most curious little place you could imagine. Beautiful. And then we set off in the real Baltic, ran into the NATO warship and a Swedish warship along the way. That was about it. Always ships constantly. We stayed just a little bit out of the way of the sea. Here we are in the Gulf of Finland. We went wing on wing for overnight. The winds were just fantastic. And this is the cargo ship Thalia. Chuck had invented an AI character to follow us along, and her name was Thalia. So here is a picture of her in Chuck's bunk from the engine room, so you can see what she looked like. Nice companion to have aboard. Anyway, here we are halfway through the Gulf of Finland, and you see all those ships stacked up, and the Finnish Coast Guard called, and Willard is saying that we have no bad intentions. We just want to go to Kotka, and here's where we put in this cute little place, and the boat got pulled out of the water in a gigantic super yacht, and this is the only damage we survived. A little strip of the trail board came off, and this is the self-steering that got us the whole way through. It was an amazing job, fantastic. And here's the prop. No growth on the prop. The zinc lost about a third of it. Here we are. We got our bags packed, ready to go, and the boat will be put into shed. We hung up everything. We mothballed the boat. We don't know exactly when we're going to come back, but here she is in the shed, a gigantic super yacht shed that's empty because there's no more super yachts, and this is what got us through the whole ordeal: beer and a nice shot of whiskey in the evening. So fantastic. Thank you.